Okay, people. April 29th, 2016. Now, I've been thinking about what's been going on. What's today? Saturday? Today's Saturday. I went to this little pro bono thing on Thursday. And you know what, people? I really should have that chart up with that with the BC Liberal government on one side, federal government on the bottom, the bank in the middle with the USA politics, big blank, right? Because that little pro bono group belongs in that little banking section at the bottom as a buffer to take up the slack and to actually hide what's going on in the province of British Columbia, Canada, in terms of people going bankrupt or losing their homes. For the poor ones, in terms of being renters, being kicked out, so that, you know, with this developers coming in, you know, they can tear down buildings and build high rises and make it unaffordable for people to live, right? Because what's happening with the BC Liberal government is they're selling off the province to oversee buyers that are coming in with laundered money. Obviously, some of them are wealthy. Not everything is laundered, right? And they can afford $1.5 million for a piece of property that would normally sell for $500,000. And again, they're coming in with absolutely no social responsibility. They don't care what happens to the past owners or past tenants, as long as they're out of the property. For some people, they get redirected into those care homes because they've got assets that can pay for those things, pay as you go. For others, they get the streets. I mean, it's pretty obvious if they're putting a pro bono program for people going bankrupt and losing their housing, right? And I'm not talking about homeowners. Yes, they're losing their housing too, but they're losing their housing in a different kind of way. Those people that are losing their housing, right, and being separated from their families through the public guardian trustee, those people, those families, they're just making complaints to the ombudsman, which those complaints just start to pile up. So, you know, 4 years later, the ombudsman is looking at this big pile of paperwork thinking, well, maybe I should, you know, do a report, make some, what do you call those things, recommendations, right? So that maybe the government might change the rules, which they never do, people, okay? And if they do change something, if they do give the people a little something, just as they're giving the people a little something over here, they're taking a whole much more over there and they're taking it back from them. So they're not really giving anything to the people. You don't give and then take back, right? So in the meantime, as that's happening, you know, the lower class, I'm not even going to say the impoverished or the most poor, but the lower class, they're losing their homes because many of them are renters, right? As this, you know, this money exchange goes on between the immigrant populations that's coming in, buying up all the properties, pushing everybody out onto the streets, walking on by with absolutely no sense of social responsibility. So the ones that are losing their homes, you know, the Landlords and Tenancy Act branch through the BC Liberal government, another government agency of some sort, right, was slashed in terms of funding. So a lot of their offices shut down, just like a lot of legal aid offices got shut down, just like a lot of legal aid funding to pay for lawyers to help with, you know, legal matters was cut back. So this little pro bono group formed itself to help those people that are being evicted from their homes because the Landlord and Tenancy Act branch doesn't have enough resources and is failing that population group. So there's an overspill. And through that overspill, no, I haven't looked in the mirror yet. I don't even know what I look like. Okay? I woke up. I have to start my day. I haven't even started my day yet, people. Okay? I'll tell you what I'm going to do today. But before I do that, so this overspill that the Landlords and Tenancy Act branch can't cope with and isn't necessarily doing a very good job because there's nothing there to protect the people, to have them stay in their homes. And these landlords can be as ruthless as they want. They can have their little grow-ops on the property in a fourplex and get away with it because I've witnessed it. I've been through it. While the tenant tries to do the right thing, will get thrown out anyway because chances are that property owner owns a couple more monster homes, right? Driving around in a Hummer and has cut a whole bunch of deals with the city and whoever else they're in partnership with. So those little people, they try and take it to the Landlords and Tenancy Act branch like I did. It gets thrown out of court because you get the wrong information from a student lawyer that maybe you go see like I did. And he says, oh, well, don't submit the receipts. So you spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars putting a case together for a civil claim against the landlord for kicking you out illegally, mistreating you while you were living there, abusing you while you were living on their property, and it gets thrown out of court because that particular student lawyer said, well, don't have to submit the original receipts. And that person on the other end that makes that decision, one person, will say, well, you didn't, yeah, they're photocopied, but they're not the original, so therefore we're throwing it out of court. And that lower class individual loses by design. Some of them are being forced to go to this legal aid group. Well, pro bono group. It's not a legal aid group. It's a pro bono group. Because that's what they specialize in. They specialize in bankruptcies and they specialize in the housing situation as people are losing their homes. Through this upper crust of money laundering, through the BC Liberal government, the banking system, the healthcare system, right? Because it's just a sorting out, people. It's just sorting out as the people are coming into the hospitals, those nurses' aides, the doctors, whoever, the social workers, okay, as a colluded group, because it takes more than 3. It only takes 3 people to create a criminal organization. So within that group of employees, there's at least 3 out of 10 that are shopping around for the Uncle Johns in the building to prop up the healthcare system under that pay-as-you-go system for long-term care, right? As the provincial government continues to privatize healthcare, right? So they don't have to take any responsibility for the people that they represent in this province. And then when something goes wrong, they don't have to take any responsibility because it was the owner of the company. So anyway, that little pro bono group belongs at the bottom in that banking system because it's a ruse. It's a rouge. It's a mirage. It's a farce. Okay? Because they're not solving the corruption. They don't want to tackle what's bringing these people to them. They just want to smooth over what's happening to make the people themselves feel like they're empowered because they can write their own claims. Okay, now I don't know what these people are doing when they're going to go see these pro bonos. I don't think that they're suing, these corporate entities for $10 million each, because most people would be too afraid to do that. Most people would be too afraid, worn out, depressed, whatever, discouraged, to even attempt to try and do what I'm doing. And these people that do this kind of stuff, they know that. Because on average, before they'd go off and file a lawsuit, they would write the ombudsman so that stack at the ombudsman office can keep going higher and higher and higher and higher and higher until finally we get a report with a bunch of recommendations that will never be followed through. Thousands of families will be ruined before that report is written, and thousands of more families will continue to be ruined after that report has been written, because nothing will change, because nobody takes it to court and challenges the wrong so that the court will create a remedy. I'm in that part. I'm the one that's challenging the court to see the wrong, to correct it with a remedy. And I'm starting to think this little pro bono group is trying to steer away from that. Right? Trying to cover it up. Trying to protect the corruption. Because they're comfortable sitting at the bottom of the barrel with the bank raping the residents of this province, whether they're throwing them out as poor people or just average people out of their housing, right? And they can't get no solutions or resolutions through the Landlords and Tenancy Act branch, so they're forced to go to court. They're forced to go to court to prop up that court system. Only it's not propping up the court system. It's just keeping these guys busy for a little bit. Right? It's nothing where you have to use brain strain. It's nothing where you really have to analyze what's going on. It's a fucking cover-up. Okay? To prop up that banking system that can come in and shut you out of your account because it felt like it wanted to. It felt like it had a right to. Even though it doesn't give you anything in writing as to why it felt that way. Right? I really should have this whiteboard board, because maybe if it was there, I could explain this better. Alright? But I don't got time. Because at the end of the day, I went in February of the 23rd or something like that, asking another extension to accessing legal help. Not legal advice, but help with the forms. In terms of, okay, these guys want an amendment. They're trying to dismiss what I wrote. So how do I do an amendment? I was told that I needed to go to this pro bono, and that I should, you need to go there. I told you before, you need to go there. Okay, I don't think it's going to work, but I'll listen to you. I went up. I didn't phone. I got lucky. I got to sit down, talk to the guy who runs the program, right? Bawling like a damn baby, right? Tried to explain to him what was going on, and he subliminally accused me of being a basic prostitute because Uncle John was just a friend. And I'm like, no, Uncle John is a family member, right? He's considered a grandfather or an uncle to my children. He's definitely considered to be a stepdad to me after all these years, right? We invested the time together as a family to be a family all these years, right? So don't classify him as a friend. Get your dirty mind out of the gutter. Get your dirty mind out of the gutter. Tells me that he's going to call me back with an appointment, right? And that if he doesn't call me back, that I should call back in the first week of April, which I did. He said April 6th, which I did. And then he's on the phone telling me that I should have called somebody else before I called him. And I'm like, okay, here we go, back on that bandwagon. But of course, I can't say too much, right? Because if I say too much, then I'm being unappreciative. So, okay, whatever. I made a mistake. Sure, my fault, whatever. And then he books me an appointment for April 27th, right, which is another 3 weeks, as I'm left hanging, people. I'm left hanging. I still don't know how to write a notice. I still don't know how to write an amendment. Right? As that dude was telling me that I have no case. But then that's not his expertise in law, because that's not what they normally do. You know, they're just smoothing over the bankruptcies that are coming in under the BC Liberal government. They're just smoothing over all these homeless people or going into homelessness, people losing their houses under the BC Liberal government. He's sure in the hell not helping the Uncle Johns that are losing their assets, whether it's a home or whether it's their pension plans, whether it's the stocks and gold bullions and all that, because that's a totally different fucking class. That's why they have that pro bono stuff sitting up in some homeless shelter. Because that's the majority of the people that they're helping, the poorest of the poor, or the ones below that $25,000 a year that are being kicked out of their apartments, that are being kicked out of their basement suites, that are being kicked out of their housing units like mine. The ones that are losing their houses, they're protecting. Because if they weren't protecting that, people, they would be helping me. Because I'm the one that's going to crack that nut. But they don't want that nut cracked. They want that nut stacked up with a whole bunch of other fucking nuts stacked up in their safe. Because if they start cracking those nuts open, then the big boys, the real gangster shanksters will come in and through the bar association and start threatening to shut them down as lawyers. Because it's corruption, people. It's corruption. That's why I say that old man that sat up there talking about, well, I've been a lawyer for 45 years. I know what I'm talking about. You know, it was just a feel good, get me into heaven, go pass. That's all it was. He wasn't helping because he really wanted to help people. He just wanted to help get his ass into heaven with his $2 million in the fucking bank. He thought that if he could help poor people like me, the good Lord up there is going to let him walk through with his $2 million in his fucking pocket. Because if he really wanted to fucking help, he would have gave me more information. Instead of getting all confrontational with me, saying, you don't have a case, you're not listening, you think you know everything. Are you listening? This is how he talked to me. Nobody's going to read all that. Who wants to read that? The information that I tried to show him after he told me not to bring it out of the bag. As he wasted 15 minutes fooling around with his own particular form that already came off the block with the word friend. So now he's sitting there thinking, oh, well, she's a concubine. You know, she's just a little prostitute. You know, yeah, right. Like, get off that fucking bandwagon. I'm serious. I'm getting sick and tired of it. What was Uncle John to you? How did you meet him? You know, what was your relationship to him? Well, I don't know. Ask the kids. If you're brave enough. Why don't you ask the kids what he was to this family? But if it comes out of the mouth of babes, it might be too truthful. And then what you gonna do? How are you going to hide that fact? So, I just feel that between February 23rd up until April 27th, I feel like this little pro bono group was just playing with me like I was a freaking mouse and they were the cats, batting me back and forth, because they sure in the hell don't want me to learn how to write a proper notice of claim, because they know, people, if I learned how to write a proper notice of claim, I'd go out in that freaking street, I'd start gathering up freaking signatures, and I would write up a class action lawsuit. Not for me, but for the ones that need it, that are being hoodwinked in this province. But we have to start with the little ones first. We have to start with Uncle John. And what happened to him. And what happened to the kids. And what happened to Andre. And then what happened to me. And then after that little one is done with, then we can go for the big one. The class action lawsuit. Because I would know how to write it by then. So they're not teaching me nothing. They didn't help me with nothing. If anything, all they did was stall for time so that by the time I get into court, I look stupid. Right? Because I've been there, done that already in the provincial court with my grandson. I've seen it happen. I see it happen on the internet with all these families being screwed around by the court system and these funky fucking lawyers that don't give a shit other than, well, that's just one more nut in my safe. He didn't tell me how to put anything forward in terms of the court. Right? Your client, you come in, you say no, I want to pursue. He should have said, okay, if regardless of what his personal feelings were in terms of his 45 years of experience, right? Really, I recommend you to do it this way, but if this is the way you really want to do it, well, I'm here to help you with that. Okay, this is how you begin to create an amendment to the notice of claim. This is how you put an application in front of the court to ask for a little more time to write that notice of claim, being that my organization wasted a month and a half keeping you hanging as we're accusing you of being a fucking prostitute, but we're just not coming out and saying it. Friend. Uncle John was just a friend. Here comes in this little hussy. Are you listening to me, people? Right? But they don't want to help me do that. They don't want to help me to learn how to amend my notice of claim. Because if I actually amended it correctly, then it would have to go to trial. And when it goes to trial, it's going to bust open that middle section with the bank running its corruption with the facilitation of Fraser Health. And that little group on the bottom, helping all those people going bankrupt and losing their housing, which in the end makes them lose everything, with one or two bones getting something out of the deal, one or two bones out of thousands of bones. Doesn't matter if it's old people and there are thousands of bones. John was just a bone to the corrupt nurse, right? The sister nurse. She got her bone, but the public guardian trustee gets its thousands of bones as those thousands of bones are being filed with the ombudsman as the paperwork is piling up, but still nothing changes. People losing their houses, their housing, and I'm not talking homeowners. There's two different groups. There's the homeowners that are losing their housing, and that housing is being bought up by all these rich immigrants coming in from freaking elsewhere that have absolutely no social responsibility to this province, to the people of this province, to the children of this province, to the youth of this province. Because their only agenda is to have a better life for themselves and to gain as much assets as they can while they're coming in, taking over everything like a fucking locust. And what does locusts do? They eat everything in their path. So let the numbers keep piling up. Let the homeless keep piling up. Let the elderly become more and more poor for the ones with the teeny-weeny pensions and being thrown out into the streets after their care facility decides they want to sell it off to some Chinese private organization that wants to take and make them pay all of a sudden twice as much as what they were paying last month. Well, this little pro bono group is at the bottom just smoothing it over for the real criminals. Just smoothing it over. Because they don't have the freaking balls to stand up to corruption. And when somebody comes along and wants to stand up to them, all they want to do is put their thumb on him. Like me. We'll just make it look like she did nothing. She did absolutely nothing for that whole period of between the February 23rd until April 27th. Waiting for them to show me how to make an amendment. That's what I went for. And they knew it. And instead they mocked me. Oh, just a friend. She's just looking for money. If I was looking for money, people, I would have went the fucking day he was gone. Okay? Let's not forget. The city jumped on and bought a bandwagon after Uncle John disappeared. Had me out in his freaking yard for a whole fucking year, even though I was out there since 2011. Day after day after day, trying to correct this yard so it could be a yard. Wasted a whole year. And still have that pressure on my back. I should be in the yard right now. But instead, for the next 2 weeks, didn't tell me. Okay, he said, you need to dismiss it. Didn't tell me how to dismiss it. Didn't tell me what form I'm supposed to submit, how I'm supposed to submit it, when I'm supposed to submit it. Wanted me to go to some human rights commission when in fact this needs to be dealt with in front of a judge in our own province because we're dealing with fraud, people. Fraud under the Criminal Code of Canada. 74 infractions. That does not need to go to the Human Rights Commission. It needs to go in front of a judge. And if the judge feels that it needs to be criminally charged, then it's the judge's responsibility to call in the Attorney General to charge those bastards, to shut that fucking system down. But then if that system shuts down, what happens to that little group of pro bono at the bottom of the pile? Who are they going to help then? Because not so many people are going to be going bankrupt now. Not so many people are going to be losing their houses now because it's going to be exposed for what it is. But they'll be busy for a while because it's going to take a few years because it's politics. Right? And if I'm successful at writing this notice of claim and successful in getting it in front of a judge and successful in getting a judgment where my family gets restitution, how many other families do you think can step up to the plate? Whether they know how to write a notice of claim or not, how many more do you think can step up to the plate? There's going to be a whole lot more coming in. They don't want that. They don't want that. They like their cozy little routine. Right? It's just a ruse, people. It's just a ruse. It's a cover-up. Okay? This is not my imagination. Right? Why lead me down the garden path so that by the time I get in front of a judge, I look like a fucking idiot because I'd done nothing in a space of, 7 weeks? While I was waiting for legal advice. As I was told to go get it. And I'm like, well, no, because I don't think 30 minutes is going to make a difference. And all I can think about is, back in 2007 or whatever it was, I put an application in front of the city of Surrey for extended hours of operations for this nightclub to go from 2 o'clock until 3 in the morning. It was just 1 hour extra because under the BC Liberal government back in 2002, 2003 or whatever the hell it was, it made it so that the people in the province, people like me, can put applications in front of city councils to do extended hours of operations, blah, 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 right? It got denied. In part, because I was told, this is what I was told, in part. I don't remember who mentioned it to me, but somebody just brought it to my attention that, in part, it got denied because the cops didn't want to have to work at 3 o'clock in the morning monitoring the bar spilling out instead of at 2 in the morning. You know, they like it nice and quiet in the neighborhood. You know, God forbid if we partied in a nightclub on a weekend until 3 o'clock for 1 extra hour and brought in $100,000 so that we could take that $100,000 and put it into the community and actually help these homeless people. The homeless people that are sitting on the sidewalk as the cops are stepping over them. Oh, I'm going to take you. I'm going to videotape this. I'm going to show you. As the cops are stepping over these homeless people to go onto that property where that community garden was where hundreds of people have already died to build their new cop shop. They're the ones that didn't want $100,000 going into that community. Because for some reason, they don't mind building their cop shop, stepping over half-dead bodies before they can pick up a fucking hammer. Like it's twisted. It would make for a good horror movie. Well, this is the same kind of situation. These lawyers don't want change. They don't. Because if they wanted change, they would stop playing games with me. They wouldn't set me up to fail before I even go in front of a judge. They would help me with the right forms. Regardless of whether I'm right or wrong, it doesn't matter. I'm standing up for Uncle John. I'm standing up for my kids. I'm standing up for my grandson. I'm standing up for my community. I'm not standing up for a bunch of freaking crooked banksters. I'm not standing up for a bunch of crooked healthcare workers. I am not standing up for no crooked freaking government. And I'm sure in hell not standing up for no crooked fucking immigrant that wants to come over here and kick my grandson, kick my children, kick my dad, kick me, and kick anyone like us off to the curb so they could buy up all the freaking property and then sit up there and say they want a better life in Canada. When they polluted their own damn country with their own fucking corruption. And then they come over here and they bring their corruption over here. Well, the lawyers facilitate it. The lawyers are allowing it to happen. For whatever reason. Some of them got good bank accounts, like I said, that can't be cracked open. Because they're lawyers. They know how to protect that kind of stuff. Some of them, this is what somebody said to me recently, some of them don't want to take on the corruption because they're wanting to be the next prosecutor. They're wanting to be the next attorney general or whatever. They want to move up the fucking rank. So the last thing they want to do is help you sue the government. Because if they help you to sue the government, that shoots themselves in the foot in order to be a crown prosecutor. So they will stand there and conspire against you to make sure you don't get there. And that's exactly what that pro bono group did. They wasted 7-8 weeks making me think that I was going to get some help, when all I got was a slap in the face and humiliated.